So I've been streaming some Last Epoch, and I have a lot of like Diablo 4 followers in my stream, Diablo 4 players in my stream. And somebody asked me, does Last Epoch scratch an itch that D4 just doesn't? And ultimately, I have a lot to say about this. So here's how I responded. Does this game scratch an itch that D4 doesn't? I think it does, yeah. I think, you know, ultimately time will tell. I'm not a D4 bad person. I had fun in the beginning in D4. Oh, what is this thing? What is this? I had fun in the beginning in D4.
Hold untold levels of
Season 1 wasn't that great, but like the game was still kind of new, and I wasn't able to know life it like some are. So like I was still having fun with D4 at that time, but not because of the season mechanics. Then season what is this? Health on kill. And then season 2 was like legitimately fun.
I'd love to clear them out at some point, but we've got far too much to do right now.
Season 3 didn't interest me enough to try. Hey Troy, how's it going? When it comes to Last Epoch, I do think it has some things for the right type of player that will interest you a lot more than Diablo 4. The skill system is so much better. It just really is. D4 skill system, it feels pretty flat. Like each class has like realistically like 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 good options. So there's maybe like, I don't know, 20, we'll say like 20 viable builds in the game that like can do pretty good. Everything can feel like kind of similar-ish to each other in a way. Like there's a few like distinct play styles that you'll play, and like you could put multiple of these builds into that like those categories. And Last Epoch isn't like that. Like there's a total of like realistically 15 classes, right? And then each class has, well, so your 5 base classes have access to like this whole side right here. And then each mastery class also gets either this row, or this row. And then each skill has its own tree. So like you can build, I could build Warpath realistically probably about 4 different ways effectively as like a main skill. You could do the same thing with Rive. You could do the same thing with Vengeance. You could do the same thing with all of these different things. So it's kind of like each mastery class. I'm trying to think of what I want to do here. Each mastery class in Diablo, I mean, in Last Epoch, probably effectively has maybe 3 to 5 effective ways to like really good ways to play, and maybe another like 5 to 10 ways that'll work. So you probably have orders of magnitude more like effective ways to play classes in this game than you do in Diablo. Like I would say probably like I'm trying to be realistic here. Like there's probably like 10x the choices in terms of effective like builds that you can play that'll take you into the late end game. Like 10x, maybe more, maybe 20x. So another thing I wanted to elaborate on with this is kind of how the play style works out due to the way the skill system works and is designed in Diablo versus what I've seen so far in Last Epoch as well. Diablo 4, pretty much everybody plays the same way. And the fact that you have usually 1 damage dealer, 1 generator if you need one, and then what's left? 4 like things to support that, right? So you have your one thing that does a whole lot of damage. You have something that helps you generate your power, your essence, your mana, whatever it is. And you have everything else is just made to help keep you alive. And when it comes to Last Epoch, at least in my experience in the way that I've played so far, it doesn't happen that way, or at the very least it doesn't have to. There's so many other options. Like on my hotbar that you see in this stream right here for my Void Knight build, I have Warpath to spin to win mass amounts of mobs. I also have Devouring Orb, which explodes upon killing mobs, which basically just like amplifies how much damage I do significantly when there's a lot of mobs in the area. I have Rive to use when I'm either mana starved or I'm focusing more on like single target damage. And then I have a movement skill. And then I have Rebuke, which is my like, oh crap, I'm in trouble skill. So like I have 3 different attacks that I regularly use, which is kind of fun. It's kind of nice, and it's a lot different than what you typically have with Diablo. And from what I understand, many of the builds in Last Epoch are like that. Whereas Diablo, almost every build is the same. You have a spender, you have a generator, and you have 4 things to keep you alive. So after that, somebody asked me about like cycles and like how the seasons are going to work in Last Epoch. And I don't really get into too much detail at this point, but I just want to like generally say that that's really going to be the true test. Like Last Epoch can feel great right now, and I think that it does. And the Diablo 4 season in current doesn't really feel that good. So much so that I didn't even bother playing the season of Diablo 4. But what is cycle 2? We're in cycle 1 of Last Epoch now. What is cycle 2 going to feel like? What is cycle 3, cycle 4? What are they going to do with these cycles? How much depth is there going to be? What are they going to do with the content after the cycle is over? That's really going to be the true test of Last Epoch. It's fun today at launch. Is it still going to be fun 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now? Are you going to want to jump into a new fresh cycle every single time they have one? And then from here, I got asked in the chat, like somebody commented on like, there's so many options it seems like available, and they love options. They're a sucker for options. So I kind of elaborate on what does that mean in Last Epoch? I'm a sucker for options. There's so many options. Like it's very easy to build your own, to do your own build here and it be effective, as long as you're willing to pay attention and not just haphazardly pick stuff. Like you could even do it without like a build guide or without even like a build planner. A build planner will make it easier, but like you could just start looking like, and the reason why is there's so much information in the game. Like if I want to know what vitality does for me, I just hover over vitality. Each point of vitality grants 6 health and 1 poison and necrotic resist. Cool, right? Block chance. It tells me exactly how block chance is like calculated and what it does. Armor. Increased melee damage. The tooltips in this game are fucking insane. If I want to look at an item, I don't even have to pick it up. If it's on the ground, I can just hover over it. If I hit control, I see how it compares to my gear, and it's pretty easy to compare. Like all your comparisons are right there on the bottom right hand side. If I hold down control plus alt, I get to see how my roll was. Is it a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, or tier 5 roll? And then what's the range of that roll? Like you get to see all of this information. It's so easy. And some of those things may be the reason, like one of the things that like either just makes it a lot different experience on console or makes it not work on console, because there's so much information that you can do, and just having like mouse and keyboard is going to be like 10,000 times easier for those things. Their console would just by default miss out on a lot. Yeah, somebody like people have told me like, oh man, like each skill has its skill tree. Yeah, like when you see this or see this, it looks complicated as hell. Once you start playing, the skill tree is a little bit more complicated, a decent amount more complex and more like involved than the Diablo skill tree. Way easier than it's 10 times easier than the Paragon board. The Paragon board, to do it effectively, you have to be out of game and you got to plan it the whole way out, all the way through.
Along with who would seek to bind.
If you don't do that, you're not going to get the most out of your Paragon board by far.
At any cost.
And then I have one more thing that I could think of that was like is there more to chew on with Last Epoch as opposed to Diablo 4? I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of things. I could sit here probably ramble a lot of them all day. But this was another one that I thought was important enough to bring up to the person that asked the original question. And one last thing, the loot filter. Oh God, the loot filter is so good. It's so easy to learn. I've like, I haven't even watched like a full video on it. I've picked up like a couple tips that people have given along the way, and a couple people in chat have come in and like gave me like answered some basic questions for me. But like, I can filter all the loot and I can recolor the things that I want to see. It's so nice. I don't have to pick up stuff that I don't want. I don't have to spend like 20 minutes after every single town or after every single run, like going through and seeing, oh, what's good, what's not good. So ultimately, that's kind of where I leave things off. So my like end opinion on it is there more to chew on in Last Epoch versus Diablo 4? Like absolutely there is. There's quite a bit more to chew on and like do and get yourself involved in the game. Now, you may or may not like those things. I tend to think that most Diablo 4 players, were they to try Last Epoch, would like it, right? I think generally speaking, you would have fun. There may be some that maybe aren't let's say like well-informed gamers, people that are like willing to take a little bit of time to like look into, you know, what's in front of them and kind of think through their builds and things like that, that maybe Last Epoch feels like just a little bit too much. But I think for most people, Last Epoch is a good place to jump into. If you're a PC player, unfortunately, if you're playing on console, Last Epoch is not for console, at least not yet, and we don't know when that's going to happen, only that it's an extended like thought of theirs that they would like to do. So hopefully you found this information useful. If you did, click the like button down below. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. I stream live both here on YouTube, and you can also watch me stream on Twitch as well at Prowl8413. So hopefully we see you there, and I thank you for watching today, and you guys have a good one.